Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. Today's topic is Building AI, why expand your R&D to France? So we'll do our best to show you our assets in this domain, and we hope to collaborate with you in the future. My name is Cecile. I am Business Development Manager for Choose Paris region. I'm on this session today with my colleague Thomas Fauvel, who is our DeepTech expert. And before we start, please note that this session is recorded, so you will receive the link to the replay. You can also directly download the presentation now. Of course, we warmly welcome you to comment the discussion or ask your question in the chat tab that is at the bottom right of your screen. And we will keep a moment at the end to answer the question. So I hope everyone has the chat tab. Hi. So today we have the pleasure to welcome Pierre-Louis, Amandine and Laurence as our guest speakers. And before we start, we will have a short introduction of Paris region and key figures and a short focus of DataIA Institute. And we will then jump to the conversation about the AI tech scene, how to collaborate here in the Paris region and the talent pool. Yes. So quickly, I don't know if it's working. The slide is not, yes. So quickly, for those who don't know Choose Paris region yet, we are the Economic Development Agency of the Paris region. Our mission is to advise international companies looking to set up in France. And each year we support 1,000 companies in their global expansion. As an example, we supported last year C3 AI, a US unicorn, as they opened an R&D lab in Paris. And we can also mention that IBM opened an R&D center last year. I'll let the mic now to our expert Thomas for the key figures.
Thank you, Cecile, and hello to everyone. I'm Thomas Fauvel. I'm in charge of the deep tech industry practice at Choose Paris region, and my job is to help you join the first tech and business ecosystem in Europe. So why should you do so? For business reasons first. Among 1 million companies, you'll find the highest concentration of Fortune 500 headquarters in Europe and the third in the world in the Paris region. That's far ahead of London, for instance. Our local GDP, that is larger to the one of Switzerland, is also a great source of opportunity. And you'll find more than 12 million inhabitants in our region, to give you just an overview. But it's also a very dynamic research ecosystem. The whole Paris region R&D ecosystem accounts for 1,200 labs and more than 160,000 R&D workers. The R&D expenditure of the region, with 20 billion euros, is 3 times higher than the one from Greater London and as much as the Silicon Valley. As an example, here is a view on this picture of the Paris-Saclay campus that we will talk about today. This campus is gathering a unique tech ecosystem with tens of R&D centers, top universities, student residences, and so much more. In this very dense ecosystem with more than 150 AI-focused R&D labs, Paris region concentrates 40%. Keep this in mind. Paris region concentrates 40% of the French national R&D expenditure in AI. It's a lot, but since 2018, it has been well structured around centers of the excellence. To name just the 4 main ones, Prairie, in the very center of Paris city, is one of the 4 national AI centers. We had them in 2020 in one of our previous similar webinars. DataIA, I won't say too much now, because we will have a presentation in 1 minute by our guest speaker, Laurence de Villers. Hi Paris is at the crossroad of the best of business and engineering schools with special corporates sponsors. And SCAI collaborates with the others, but it is another example of interdisciplinary research in AI at the heart of Paris. To help this the efficiency of this rich ecosystem, you can rely on 4 innovation and technology clusters. To make it simple, Cap Digital is for B2C, Systematic is for B2B and DeepTech, Medicine for Med and Health Tech, Next Move for everything related to transport and mobility. The Paris region is truly a startup region. You can find at least 8,000 startups and located in numerous innovation centers, among which is the largest startup campus in the world, Station F, here on the picture. But it's also a big talent pool. This talent pool represents 1/4 of the French student population. And it's also home to some of the best engineering and management schools in the world. They are all deeply involved in AI. To finish, this description of our AI ecosystem, look at the most important international investments in research and development centers in our region. We are at your service if you want to be part of this ecosystem too. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. I hope this helped understand the ecosystem. And welcome, Laurence. I'll let you the mic for the focus on DataIA. DataIA.
Okay. Could you move the slide to the first one? Okay, thank you. Then next. So I'm Laurence de Villers, member of DataIA board on international relations. And I'm a full professor of artificial intelligence, and I lead a research team on affective and social dimension in spoken interaction with bots and robots in the Interdisciplinary Laboratory of Digital Science, LISN, at the CNRS in Saclay. I also lead a chair, which is the DataIA 1, about human-machine affective interaction and ethics, focusing on the detection of social emotion in human voice and on the study of audio and spoken language digital nudge. So I was involved previously, long time ago, but not so far, in the IEEE Global Initiative for Ethical Consideration in the Design of Autonomous Systems, and I was leading a group on standard for ethically driven nudging for robotic, intelligent, and autonomous systems. So now I am involved in this DataIA Institute and Hub Francia, private-public ecosystem, and I'm expert in two ethical committee. One, it's a national committee pilot on ethics of numeric, and the other one is a global partnership on AI on the future of work. So I would like to highlight the DataIA Institute mission statement, and first to say that the interdisciplinarity nature of DataIA makes it unique in Europe. Its scientific fields are numerous, and its researchers are internationally recognized. So it aggregates multidisciplinary expertise and boasts the collective partners' powers in the Paris-Saclay cluster involved in disruptive research in AI, data science, and their societal impact, such as inclusive AI, sustainable AI, and creative AI, for example. So you see the large number of labs included in this institute. So thank you. To go to the next one. So it's the first French ecosystem I mentioned, but even in Europe is a huge part of the ecosystem in data science and AI for society. So Paris-Saclay University was the third in the Shanghai ranking and first in the mathematics. So there are 42 laboratories specialized in AI and over 1,200 faculty staffs. So 16 chairs in AI, as I mentioned, I have one, out of the 40 chairs in AI selected at the national level by the ANR. So I mentioned previously, mine is about human-machine affective interaction and ethics. And it was about nudging, digital nudging. So winner of the AI thesis UDOPIA program, and so with 30 PhD theses over 3 years. And we have a lot of research projects, multi-partners research project launched since 2018. So DataIA has many collaboration with Prairie and Sky and the Paris hub of the European ELIS network. Could you please? There is a lot of people involved in this DataIA, like INRIA, Central Supélec, and so on. So there are world-renowned and widely distributed software and hardware resources, as I mentioned, skitlearn here, and JobLead, and other kind of software and hardware resources. Please, next one. So the 3 pillars of this institute are data to knowledge and decision, so produce knowledge and require the building of new models for decision support. Then learning and AI, optimize learning and massive data and robust deep learning. And we have great project on that topic, and societal impacts of the digital transition. So anticipate social impacts, preserve user responsibility, and build a fair and loyal AI, as I mentioned also. Next one, slide. Then could you go to the next one? So there is a scientific animation of the institute. We invite professor, the example of the last professor invited. And we also made some challenges about, for example, some bacteria biotop challenges in 2019, track machine learning or AI challenge for industry. And also, as I mentioned previously, some involvement in softwares and resources like this skitlearn. And we can mention the hackathon we managed last years. And there is several opportunities to do that with this huge cooperation with the different labs in Saclay. So next slide. So we also have a large involvement in the PhD programs, like I mentioned, UDOPIA. And there is this doctoral program in artificial intelligence. Its name is UDOPIA, as I mentioned. So there is also a large opportunity to have access to a large number of students and the possibility also to have strong collaboration with these doctoral schools. So next slide, please. Then we also organize summer schools, like the Data Science Summer School with a Polytechnic, and Artum Summer School on AI with bachelor's and master students. And we have also this French-German Summer School on AI. So it's also a good opportunity to participate to those schools, I think, to prepare cooperation. And then this junior conference on data science also, which are quite interesting to have access to this pool of students. Thanks. Then next one. So at the international level, we're very active. We have organized a lot of conference, like for example, the Alan Turing Institute and IVADO and CNRS joined in a workshop. I co-organized this workshop about fairness, interpretability, and privacy for algorithm system. It was in 2019. Then we have this JST International Symposia on Data Science and AI in France, then in Japan. Another one in Finnish with the Finnish Center for AI in September 2020. So we have now a large connection with European networks, ELIS and CLAIRE. And there is upcoming international lab on learning system, joined with McGill University and the MILA, CNRS, and University of Paris-Saclay. So I thank you for your attention, and I can try to answer to the question if you want. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laurence. So we can see that DataIA is one of the main actor in the AI academic world. So to consider collaboration, for example. And now let's move to our discussion and start with the Paris region scene in AI. Welcome, Pierre-Louis. Pierre-Louis, you are a research program manager at Meta AI. And welcome, Amandine. Amandine, you are a co-founder and CEO of Adoc Talent Management.
Thank
Hello.
you. Hello.
Hi, welcome to you both. So, what makes Paris region an AI hub? And my first question goes to Pierre-Louis. How is Paris region different from other tech AI hubs in Europe? And why did a tech giant like Meta AI choose Paris over Switzerland, for example?
Well, to give a bit of perspective, I would like to 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 give a few words about what is Meta AI and Meta AI research, especially. Meta AI is and Meta AI research is the research lab in artificial intelligence of Meta, which was a few weeks ago, as you know, Facebook. Um, Facebook AI research, Meta AI research, was created in 2013 by a French, quite famous in the domain, Yann Lequin, who is considered one of the pioneers of what created the recent revolution of artificial intelligence with the deep learning. And Yann is one of the three pioneers that made this revolution possible with his colleagues Joe Finton and Joshua Bengio, and they both received the Turing Award in 2018. So Yann Lequin is a chief scientist of Facebook AI, Meta AI, and he created this lab in 2013, both located at the time at the Facebook headquarters at Menlo Park in the Silicon Valley and in New York. And Yann is still a part-time professor at the New York University. And just 2 years later, they decided to create a lab in Paris with following the same model, a lab which is close to an academic cluster, close to a vibrant ecosystem of research and industry, like New York is, like the Silicon Valley is. And actually, in 21, our lab in Paris is the third in size worldwide, just after Silicon Valley, Menlo Park, and New York. We have also other labs in Montreal, in Pittsburgh, close to the Carnegie Mellon University, in London, and in Tel Aviv. So Paris is the bigger in size after Menlo Park and New York. We have about 90 researchers, 30 PhD students. It's truly a kind of the model we follow is really the model of an academic lab, and our mission statement is we are advancing the state of the art in artificial intelligence through fundamental and applied research in open collaboration with the community. And that's the key to understand why we are here. It's because we wanted to be very close to the Paris research community. I can elaborate a lot about that, but maybe you have
Yes,
more questions.
that's perfect. I have a question now for Amandine. Amandine, you help a lot of clients in the recruiting of PhD, etc. Through your clients, which industry do you see are very active in AI? And did you observe changes in the past few years or with the
Should
pandemic?
I also introduce myself,
Yes,
maybe? I
you
don't
can
know.
also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me to this roundtable. Let me introduce briefly my company to emphasize the I will share with you today. So I co-founded Adoc Talent Management in 2008. We are the first executive recruitment consultancy firm dedicated to PhDs. Our team assists companies of all sectors and every size in the recruitment for the best talent for various positions, both in R&D and outside R&D, so such as experts, scientists, project manager, business developers, and obviously also C-level positions. Our main office is in Paris, but we also have an office in Montreal and another one in Brussels. We have clients in many different industries. Basically, we work for all the innovation-driven sectors like biotech and pharma, digital and IT, aerospace, energy, consultancy, and so on. And basically, it's kind of hard to say that AI is linked to a specific sector since it clearly impacts most, if not all sectors in a transverse and cross-sectorial manner. But obviously, we have many recruitments in this domains. It's a tense market, and well, I can comment on that later on.
Thank you, Amandine. I want to go back on what you said, Pierre-Louis, because you told me that Meta AI, you are working with other countries, Switzerland, Germany. So just can you tell us how the ecosystem are connected with the Paris region?
Well, we are in Paris to be close to the labs and the researchers and from the academia here. We also have labs as you mentioned in London. We also have teams in Zurich. The same pattern applies. In Zurich, we are close to EPFL and ETH with for some domains, and we are here to advance the state of the art in artificial intelligence. That's what we are working on, and because we find the teams and research teams that are at the highest level at the worldwide level. Some of the best students, both in applied maths and in computer science and in AI. And I would like to make a comment about what Laurence said before. She mentioned scikit-learn, which is one of the top machine learning toolkit used in the world, actually, and it has been invented in an academic lab in Saclay, and it's widely used. I remember data science competitions years ago with Indian students that mentioned to me while creating a model that they were using sklearn. They didn't even know that sklearn was a scikit-learn invented in Paris, and to me it's very, very significant. You know, that's the cluster effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question to all. Which actors of the ecosystem should our audience know about? I know we briefly mentioned them in the introduction, but maybe there is some.
Yeah, about the cluster effect, I think it's important to to mention and repeat that the socio-economic fabric in France in AI is now mature. Obviously, as already mentioned, we have really large companies such as Facebook or Huawei or Microsoft and so on, but also mid-sized companies and more than 500 startups specialized in artificial intelligence, and this number is growing pretty fast with a lot of deep tech startups that are launched every year. And basically the stacks are different because in mature industry sector, they are disrupted by AI, whether in technology-driven startup, it's in the DNA. But both are important for the global ecosystem in Paris.
Yeah. Can I say
Yes,
something?
go ahead, Laurence.
Yeah. Thank you for showing this global ecosystem. I can add something. It's very meaningful to have also this discussion to the international level about responsible AI, data governance, future of work, innovation and commercialization. And for example, in AI pandemic responses, we have to take care together about our health in different societies. So it's very useful to be a real ecosystem also concerned by, for example, climate change and AI. What recommendation we can push for government action. So I think there is this economic purpose, but it is also a society consciousness, which is very important to have together. I mean, industrial ecosystem, startups, but also academics.
Thank you. I have a last question in this topic about the ecosystem. Which event would you recommend to network and deep dive into the AI ecosystem in France that you would recommend to our audience? I know we talk about some event. Who wants to take the question?
Yeah, I can just mention two. The first, I'm inviting the World Artificial Intelligence Cannes Festival. I know Yann Lequin, which is a friend, also will be there, and a lot of people in this area. So I think it's a very nice conference to also project on this, as I mentioned, inclusive AI, sustainable AI, and creative AI. So it's the one very important for me. Another one I can mention is a voice tech, for example, in France, which is quite interesting about this natural language processing and the voice application, which is the main now conference. Two examples for me. So,
thanks. Pierre-Louis, you mentioned one meetup. Maybe you want to mention it.
Yes, there's the Deep Learning Paris meetup, which is very popular among students and startup. And I have not been attending this meetup for a while because of the COVID restrictions, etc. But I know that it's now online and it's very, very, very popular. Getting back to what Laurence said, another comment. By essence, research is collaborative effort, and research in AI is obviously not just about computer science, machine learning, and applied maths. It's also now about social science, cognitive science, and why not philosophy and other non-traditional research from the perspective of the deep tech industry. And it's a fact that France, especially the universities in Paris and in the region, are at the highest level on these domains as well. So it creates really interesting opportunities for advancing the state of the art. To give you an example, we have collaboration in neuroscience for a while, which is not an evidence for such a company, but we are advancing the state of the art, and through understanding what the human brains do, and to understand certain fundamental aspects of reasoning.
Yeah, it's with this era in Saclay, I think.
Yeah, not only, but also.
Okay.
Thank you, Pierre-Louis, for your comment. It's the perfect
Thanks a lot for mentioning that, both Laurence and Pierre-Louis. I also think that often when we think about AI, we first think about talents with technical background, mathematics, digital sciences, but and obviously they are important to create technology bricks, but I truly think that more diversity and multidisciplinarity is required to have successful innovation, and social sciences and humanities are definitely important to have an acute understanding of organizations, a deep understanding of complex phenomena, to also accompany change and support the appropriation of innovation, to tackle the ethical stacks, and to think the youth at the center of the innovation process. And yeah, I fully agree that we have a pool of talents on those topics that is great in the Paris area. So it's really important to mention that also.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amandine. And I want to move to our second topic, but there was already a small transition.
And maybe if I can comment about events, since you are discussing about the important events. When I tend to think that for newcomers in France, the events from the competitivity cluster are also really important, because they are like accelerators for networking with various actors, so both the academic sector, but also industry leaders and startups, and some of my international clients says it also really helps them to make an active watch, to understand the trends, to understand the weak signals. So there are a lot of clusters, and here systematic is mentioned. Obviously, it's one of the most active in AI, but we can also think about medicine for the pharma and biotech industry, or finance innovation for the fintech, and so on. So I guess we can provide a list in the chat anyways, but it's an accelerator, I guess, when you come to France.
Thank you, Amandine. I hope that you can hear me. So I wanted to move to our second topic. Thank you for all these interesting comments. And the second topic was about doing R&D and collaborating in Paris region. We already talked a little bit about it. And I had one question for Laurence. As an academic, how do you collaborate with the industrial groups and startups?
I can also comment about what was mentioned. But, well,
is it me or there is a problem?
Sorry, Laurence, did you want to?
I don't know what you want to
start. No.
Okay,
yes,
well, I have one.
Go ahead, go ahead, please.
I don't know.
Yes, I have one question for Laurence. I think we have a problem with the sound.
I wanted to comment because both Pierre-Louis and Laurence are proving through their testimony that AI is definitely an area in which companies and academic lab collaborate a lot. And with our clients, we see basically two models. Some of them do not wish to internalize basic research, but they collaborate with academia to make proof of concept, and then they transfer the technology bricks that were created. And some others have decided that AI was so strategic that they need to stay at the state of the art, or even to push it further. Pierre-Louis was discussing that a minute ago. And in that case, they hire internal experts and teams who are recognized in the AI community. And they also launch collaborative R&D programs. And I definitely think also France is a good place for that, because of the talent pool, but I guess we will discuss that later on. But also because of the French research tax credit that is recognized as the most attractive in Europe by the OECD. So in French, we say Crédit Impôt Recherche, CIR. So the French research tax credit support provide the support for all the R&D activities of companies, no matter the size or the sector. It can be a startup or a large corporation opening up a R&D center in France. Basically, well, the principle is quite simple. 30% of research expenses up to 100 million euro of R&D activities are deducted from the taxes or are refunded by the French government. And there are also expenses that are much more taken into account and much more deducted. For instance, if you collaborate with an academic lab, or if you hire a PhD who never got a permanent position after defending his PhD, basically the amount of the expense will be more or less totally refunded. So it's quite an interesting incentive. There's also another kind of tax credit, which is called the Crédit Impôt Innovation, so innovation tax credit, allowing a deduction of 20% of innovation activities expensive for, but it's only for SMEs, and it's up to 400k euro a year. So those are also interesting tools, let's say,
Yes,
instruments.
maybe I can also answer to the question. Thank you for this precision. So in DataIA, we have an industry affiliation program with the possibility to make action with joint research from academic and industry with collective actions, for example, sharing experience with several company experts and academics, or bilateral, so trying to facilitate and increase development of qualified project with CIF or other kind of possibility to build. There's many different kind of projects we can have in France and in Europe. So also it's useful for recruiting young researcher, I think. It's easy to access to intern and future data scientists with affiliation to our program in DataIA. And also we have some training course and catalog of possibility in Paris-Saclay. We also, as I mentioned, organize events like seminar, workshop, challenges, hackathon in the Paris-Saclay ecosystem. And we can answer with other countries, other groups, I mean, industry and academics to project. And who can build complementary teams, and it's very useful to imagine that from algorithms to and very theoretical things to proof of concept, and also with this idea of interdisciplinarity between humanities and digital science, as I mentioned in Paris-Saclay, and to go to the direction of ethical things, ethics by design. So there's a lot of opportunities with also the CIFRE possibility, which is a PhD that can be accompanied by industrial partners and also academics. So, and also we have a lot of already collaboration with different. I mentioned that before, I think. I don't remember if it was in my slide or not, but we have a lot of collaboration with industrial partners like Sanofi, for example, 3 PhD theses, and 2 more in few times with Servier, with GE Healthcare. There is also opportunity with Renault, with a group about transport mobility. And so there's a lot of other discussion at the time between different subjects with different industrials in the area, in the ecosystem of Paris-Saclay. So let's go. We're open to a lot of discussion about very expert domains.
Thank you, Laurence, for testifying about this topic of collaborating with the industrial groups. I have the same question for Pierre-Louis. What's the point of view of a tech giant regarding collaboration with academia? You told us that your lab is really an academic-like lab. And do you collaborate with startups?
No, we don't really. So our lab is a research lab. So we collaborate more with academics than with startups. But all our research is published, is under the open science framework and open source for the software. And most of our libraries are integrated into a platform which is called PyTorch, which is probably as popular as scikit-learn is in the AI world, and probably the leading platform for deep learning. And through this platform, through PyTorch, we do collaborate, or we do have a wide community of startups contributing as well as academics. And well, I can mention one startup in particular to give an example, which is both located in Paris and in New York. It's a startup called Hugging specialized in natural language processing, and Hugging is very, very special. It's a startup which is kind of startup research lab. I mean, there are not a lot of that sort in the world, and we do collaborate a lot with Hugging through public projects, and probably Laurence does.
Exactly. Can I mention the big science?
Yes, absolutely. The big science project
led by yes, with many public research labs and maybe Facebook or Meta now, I don't know, which is trying to create a language model that is equivalent to, in size, but it's open to the public to explore and improve the understanding of these large transformers models.
Well, it's very technical, but it's a very, very ambitious project, and it's typically a kind of project where the frontiers between academic research, big tech or giant or whatever name you put, research and startup research, the frontiers are blurred, and it works very well, and it works very well in a context where the state, the French government, gives a very, very strategic incentives I think it's worth mentioning this supercomputer called Janzé.
Exactly.
That is in Saclay, and to give an example. I may be mentioning also give a few words about CIFRE, this PhD framework fostered by the French government, which is for us instrumental to structure the way we collaborate with academic labs. In a few words, CIFRE is a program that started in France 40 years ago to have PhD students in companies. I mean PhD students who are employees of a company and co-supervised both by engineers in the company and academic supervisor, strictly following the academic standards. It is a very, very successful program that inspired comparable programs in other countries in Europe. We have been supervising 40 PhD students under the CIFRE program since 2015, and we reached, because of the size of our lab, 30 PhD students a year, all going through this CIFRE program. They are employees of Meta, and they are co-supervised by an academic lab. And half of these, so we have about 17 to 20 academic lab in our CIFRE program collaborations. Half of them, 70% of them in the Paris region.
Thank you, Pierre-Louis. I think CIFRE was mentioned with Amandine, Laurence, and Pierre-Louis as one of the many incentives you can find in France. And one also to mention is the French government's AI plan. I don't know if someone wanted to comment about it, but recently the government announced 2.2 billion euros to invest in the relaunch plan to support AI with funding of SMEs, startups, research institutes, and this also goes to the CIFRE program. And we can move now maybe to the AI talent pool. We mentioned it a little bit with the CIFRE, but maybe Amandine, you had some comment about the profiles that are the most sought after by companies and that might interest our audience, if it works for the
Yeah, sure. Thanks to ask this question. So the needs for talents trained in artificial intelligence are huge, both in RPA, NLP, image processing, deep learning, data sciences, and so on, but also connects domain. And that's the reason why the national AI plan shows the ambition to double the number of PhD in AI. For instance, it's one of the ambition. I think it's not worthy to mention that when a company has to decide where they want to expand, one of the most important criteria is the pool of qualified talent, and in that perspective, Paris is one of the most attractive city. So based on the last study from Global City Investment Monitor in 2020, we were ranking in the second position for the aspect of access to qualified talent. So we were beyond New York, but ahead of London, Hong Kong, and Mumbai. I guess I can share the link to the study after, but what I definitely see, because we have offices both in Paris and Montreal, that is one of the major hub for AI, is that it's definitely harder for our team in Montreal to attract AI talents because of the shortage and because of the turnover also of people that is higher than in France. So about the PhD talent pool. Basically 14,000 PhD are defended each year in France. Among them, 42% are foreigners, and I think it's important to mention it, because it means that basically they were born abroad and they chose France either for their higher education or to prepare their PhD. So it really also shows the attractiveness of France for early stage researchers. And yeah, I wanted to mention that because I am aware of the fact that Paris may not be recognized yet as one of the most cosmopolitan hub, but the French tech is definitely international in its DNA. So it's important to keep that in mind. And obviously, Laurence and Pierre-Louis already mentioned that we have we really have high level academic labs. Maybe a comment I wanted to make, because when you don't come from France, the French academic system may be a bit difficult to understand. One of the French exceptions in the organization of the research system is that two types of academic players coexist. So intensive research institutions such as CNRS or INRIA, that was mentioned before, and higher education system with both universities and what we so-called grandes écoles, so selective engineering and business school, and the community for AI is a bit everywhere, but the National Institute for Research in Digital Sciences and Technology is definitely important, Paris-Saclay University and other Parisian university. So the talent pool is everywhere.
Thank you, Amandine. So maybe one last comment, and then we can take a few questions from the chat. You were mentioning like attracting foreign talent, as well as having talents in the Paris region. And Pierre-Louis, you mentioned it. You use the passport talent incentive that we have in Paris. Can you, and in France?
Yes, we do not only recruit young talents from the local universities or from the local work market. We also attract talent from everywhere in the world. Paris is very attractive city, and we have many researchers from other places in Facebook in the US who relocate to Paris and then go back to their country. So Paris is very attractive, and it's a misconception to think that it's hard for a non-EU person to be accepted to work in France. It's a misconception, because if you are graduated from the university, willing to work in the computer industry or in AI, you will be warmly welcome. And the French government has a program for that. It's called the Passeport Talent, or talent passport, that accelerates the process to get a EU visa. And I can tell you that it contrasts with the experience in the UK, for instance, which is long and painful sometimes. So it's a misconception. Another misconception is the language. If you come to Paris, you will not, and you don't speak French, you will be lost in translation. And in fact, it's not. It's of Paris, it's a more and more cosmopolitan city with people speaking the languages from all over the world. So at some moment you can hear people speaking more English than French, or even more Spanish than or Italian than French. So it's very, very attractive for people from all around the world.
Thank you very much, Pierre-Louis, for your testimony. That's very helpful. We have a few questions from the chat. Maybe we can take some before ending the webinar. So I have one question, for example, from Naresh, who said, what's the best way to gain access to and to recruit software developers? Maybe Amandine, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I can, obviously. I guess the best way is to network with the engineering schools and universities in the domain, and also to be really active in the events that are also the meetups and so on. And what I see also is that especially since the pandemic, the young graduate really pays attention to having meaningful jobs. So also work about your value proposition for candidates. So what do you offer? What is different? What is your DNA, your international DNA, and so on? Because it matters a lot for them. To make a short answer.
Thank you. We have one question from Portia. How can one attend this AI Cannes festival? We will share the link. I think you have received it.
Yeah,
And if
you
you
have
have
all.
question, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. One question from Adam. Has the panel experienced any interesting engagement between Renault or other French automotives OEM and the French startup and innovation community you could share? Or maybe we can deep dive with Thomas and answer afterward.
Yeah, I think it's preferable to have precise answer.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the question. How can Paris region collaborate with startups in AI in scaling up? What's the procedure? Maybe Thomas, you want to answer this question?
Yes, of course, because Choose Paris Region is the one-stop shop for international companies willing to set up their business here. We provide free of charge services, like, for instance, how to open a bank account, finding a lawyer to write your bylaws. That's very practical things, but we also provide market insights on how to do business, and we can help you work on your go-to-market strategy. Usually, we also try to advise you on where to set up your business. I mean, it can be an accelerator. That's because you're talking about startups in AI, and we can find in our very broad ecosystem places adapted to your industry.
Thank you, Thomas. And I think we will finish right on time. So I would like to deeply thank you, thank our guest speakers, Pierre-Louis, Laurence, and Amandine. Thank you very much for your time today. This was very insightful. I'm sorry we had some technical difficulties, but I hope that the message was clear for everyone. I'm sure it was. And we will send you the link to rewatch the webinar. You can reach out to us for any question if you want to go further. So I wish you everyone a good day, afternoon, depending, or evening, depending where you are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.